All right, we're back. The week 2 recap is here. I'll be starting that out. We're just going to talk about some of the games that I watched this weekend. I didn't watch every single game, of course. I can't do that. But we'll do the pick'ems. We'll see how we did on the pick'ems. I did a little bit better than last week, but not that great as well. I picked the wrong upsets again, so we'll go over that, and I'll talk about some of my favorite games in there as well. So let's get started, guys. Started out with the Bills and the Dolphins, and that was the Tua injury. So I'll talk a little bit about this game. I had a call in earlier this week with Reggie, and we were talking about the Guardian caps. And I do think after a few concussions, that you should probably be required to wear a Guardian cap. Maybe after the first one or the second one, just in the NFL at least. Tua's had a long history of the concussions. This was his third one that knocked him out of a game and knocked him out for some time in the NFL. Last year he was good at it, but I remember talking with my friends about this game. The offensive line play was terrible, and it was kind of just a matter of time that I felt like Tua was going to be taking a bad hit. They had a couple guys go, like Robert Hunt, to the Panthers, and their offensive line just did not look good in this one. And inevitably, Tua got hurt. Obviously, it wasn't because of the offensive line. He took a hit on his own. He was scrambling outside of the pocket, tried to make a play, and struck Damar Hamlin and got a concussion. So he will continue to play, and I wonder if he'll wear a Guardian cap or not. But I do think Guardian cap should probably be required after a concussion or two. So the Bills did look dominant, however, even with Tua being on the field. Tua was just not able to do much. He couldn't move out of the pocket, and he wasn't super accurate or on time. And the play calling, I felt like in the first half, mainly in that second quarter, was just a little off. But the Bills played great. They played great defense. Sean McDermott almost always has a great defense. And James Cook was cooking in this one, so they looked pretty good. And for the next one that I picked wrong, I felt like the Cowboys, I picked the Cowboys here. I felt like they looked so good against the Browns that they were just going to win this one. I thought it would be a pretty close game. I thought it was going to be a field goal or a touchdown because I do really like the Saints. I did pick the Saints to win their division and be the 4 seed this year, which they are lighting it up. The Saints are legit this year. Alvin Kamara isn't washed yet, and Derek Carr is playing great, and the offensive line is a pleasant surprise. Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State is playing great. I really liked him coming out of the draft, and he's played great, starting in this job. And then you also got Chase Young and Kool-Aid McKinstry in the offseason as well. And I felt like they just had such a great draft, a great free agency period. They buffed out that D-line, and this defense that was already, I felt like, top 15 got better, and they're looking like top 10. They're first in DVOA and first in EPA on defense. And it showed here against the Cowboys that they couldn't have any run game, and they couldn't stop the run. So the Cowboys can't run the ball, and they can't stop the run as well. And that showed here, and that's why they won 44-19. There was a great deep ball to Rashid Shaheed in like triple coverage that Derek Carr hit, which was nasty. And Chris Olave had a nice catch, and Alvin Kamara obviously had that breakout game with 5 touchdowns. So he balled out in this game. But the Saints dominated the Cowboys, and I thought that was going to be a lot closer than it actually was. So yeah. Any particular game you want me to talk about, Colby? I don't know if you really want me to talk about any games here or not. Oh, there we go. Let's get this going. All right. Anyway, the next game we had the the Lions versus the Bucks. Don't talk about Baltimore. All right, I won't talk about Baltimore. I'll skip right over it. I'll probably talk about them for like 30 seconds. I didn't watch the game, so I actually wasn't planning on talking about the Ravens game that much. Because that was during the Seattle game, so I was really paying attention to the Seattle game. And then same thing with like this Cowboys game. I wasn't super paying attention to it. I did see a lot of like film clips though, and I saw Micah Parsons not being able to stop the run and their run defense being terrible. So The next matchup was the Bucks and the Lions. This was a really fun matchup because the Bucks have always had a really good defensive line, and the Lions have had a great offensive line. They've had like the best offensive line in football. So that was a really fun matchup. The Lions' run game was all right. The Lions were just kind of all right, and this was a really close one. And the Bucks just kind of stole this game. I felt like from the Lions, even in Detroit. This was an awesome game from Baker. The Bake Show's back, baby. He's playing great. They could not run the ball to save their lives. However, the Buccaneers have an actual problem with running the football. They just cannot run the football. The offensive line did not improve that much, even with the additions of Graham Barton. So, however, Baker is just throwing the ball just as well, even without Dave Canales there anymore. So, the Bucks are looking on a path of playoff success, and now they have this game over the Lions, which is going to be huge for the NFC picture down the line. But this is also one of the games that I didn't really watch. I just saw some highlights, and that's kind of where I'm getting a lot of my opinion from here today. So I felt like Baker played pretty good, though, from what I saw. Next up was the 49ers-Vikings. I did say this would be a close game. However, I thought the 49ers were so dominant against the Jets and their defense that they would just kind of overwhelm the Vikings. But with Debo going down and without Christian McCaffrey, who I thought would be back, and the defense is still not quite all the way there yet, the Vikings also kind of just stole this game, kind of like what I was saying with the Bucks. They had that 98-yard touchdown to JJ, and Sam Darnold is looking like the prospect that we thought he would be coming out of college, out of USC, all those years ago. But he's having that Geno Smith resurgence here with the Vikings, which is something that I've been talking about since preseason, that I thought Sam Darnold would be a lot better with a better offensive coach, a better team, a better defense, a great offensive line, the best receiving core and team he's just ever been with, right? And he showed that in this one. Yeah, he had the one Sam Darnold mistake, but other than that, I thought he was fine. So. Next matchup was the Chargers-Panthers. I'm glad I waited a little bit to talk about this game because Bryce Young was benched. I think that was a pretty bad decision for the franchise in my eyes. Granted, I'm not a Panthers fan. If you want to see your team win, you might not want Bryce Young starting. But I just feel like if you're going to end the Bryce Young process, if you're going to bench him, start Andy Dalton over him, and pretty much just call it quits with Bryce Young, then that's just not the right direction. I don't think you're going to get another quarterback that's going to fit, exactly what you want. And I know he hasn't exactly improved the way you want him to going into year 2, but he's also like on a terrible team. Xavier Legette, their first round draft pick that they traded up for, is not getting talked about at all. His snap share went down by a lot, and he had one of the lowest, separation per yard metric. He had almost no separation. It was almost less than a yard. It was like 1.03 or something like that. Their wide receivers are still not getting any separation, and their offensive line did not improve, and the play calling isn't improving. But at the same time, Bryce Young is not calm under pressure. He's not taking any shots down the field. He's not doing a lot of things that we thought would be a problem. Being calm under pressure, throwing over the middle of the field, taking shots when he can, and that's been a problem here in year 2. If you got what you got last year in the Packers game, that would be exceptional, and that's kind of the Bryce Young that we wanted. But that's not the Bryce Young they got, which is understandable why they benched him. But I feel like if you're going to move on from Bryce Young, then that's not great for your franchise, and you're probably going to be out on Dave Canales again. So probably another coaching change, which is like the worst thing I think you want for a rebuilding team. And it's just not looking good. But the Chargers, I felt like, looked all right. I felt like the score could have been a lot greater. They are 2-0. Jim Harbaugh's doing a great job. The run game's great. Justin Herbert's sick. Quentin Johnson had a good game. Granted, it was against the Panthers, and he did burn J.C. Horn, who right now I guess would be the best Panthers defender because Derek Brown is out for the season. But Chargers are looking like they might be a playoff team this year. They got 2 good wins, I guess, against bad teams, but That's all you kind of need is just win against the teams that are worse than you, and you'd probably be 9-8, or 10-7, and squeak into the playoffs. So Chargers are looking like that type of team. They're heading in the right direction. Joe Alt is awesome, so that's great. Next up was the Colts Packers. I didn't really watch this game. I heard that Anthony Richardson really, really underperformed, which is something I think you should come to expect. There's going to be a lot of high highs like last week, even though you lost, and a lot of low lows. He needs a lot of time, I think. Not a lot of time, but he needs time. He needs to develop. He's not played a lot of games in college or in the NFL. He's played like 20 games since he was 18. He's, 22? So it's like 20 games in 4 years, 5 games per year, something like that. Right. But losing to a Jordan Love-less Packers is a little scary. And this defense is looking a little bit worse than I thought they were. I thought they were the best front seven in defense, and I think they're right around, the 17 to 20-ish range in EPA right now, which, granted, they did play that Texans offense, but the Bears were able to, kind of I don't want to say shut them down, but they played pretty well. I thought they played a lot better than the Colts. The scoreboard would say so as well. So Colts need to figure a little bit of things out on defense. They need to figure some things out with Anthony Richardson and their wide receivers, get Michael Pittman Jr. more involved, and go from there. I felt like they also haven't had a strong running game, which you should totally have with AR and JT in the backfield. So just a little bit of play calling issues I think that they need to get ironed out. It is week 2, so but Packers look good even without Jordan Love, so once he's back they should be primed to be right around that 5 or 6 seed that I was calling back in preseason. So next up, Jets Titans. I didn't watch this game. I didn't really care about this game, I'm not gonna lie. This wasn't that great of a game. The Titans were winning in this though, however. But the Jets came back and they won. They still have a great defense. The Titans have a great defense, and I think Aaron Rodgers is still just shaking off some rust and getting back to his old self. Whatever that old self might be, he is 40, so just something we'll want to keep an eye out. Will Levis had a disaster class as well, but Jets squeaked this one out. I got this one right. Is this my first pick right? Okay, this is my third. Next one I got right. I got the Seahawks. I am a Seahawks fan. I picked them to beat the Patriots. I felt like they had a great defensive masterclass. They played amazing in the second half. I am wearing the Seahawks hat, so obviously I might be a little bit biased there. I felt like the Patriots were great getting separation for Hunter Henry. They were great in play action, and their defense was great in that first half. Just in that second half, I felt like the Seahawks, again, like last week, made great adjustments and were able to pull out with the win. It was a lot closer than I thought it should have been. But they're number 2 in DVOA and EPA for defense, and their defense is looking scary good. So other than that first quarter, they looked really good, and the Patriots still have a top 10 defense. They looked really awesome. They only had that one miscommunication play that led up that 54-yard touchdown to DK, but other than that, it was really long drives for the Seahawks where they had to dump it down to DK or Tyler or JSN, and JSN and DK went off in this game. And I'd like to mention that Geno was super efficient as well in this game. He did have like the one really bad throw in a triple coverage that was fortunately dropped for him, but other than that, he was very efficient, and he's looking like a top 12 quarterback, I think. So something to keep an eye out. This team is one of my playoff teams, and they're looking like they're going to be that. However, the Patriots were also one of my sleeper teams, and they look great too as well with that top 10 defense without Barrymore. So they should improve even going on throughout the season. And then once they add Drake May, I think they should be a lot better. So next matchup was the Browns and Jaguars. I didn't see much of this, but from what I know is the Jaguars are not good. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what's going on with Trevor Lawrence. I think he has the talent, all the talent in the world to be able to produce, but he just can't. Christian Kirk isn't exactly what he was last year. The run game is still super inefficient. Brian Thomas Jr. sick though. I think it might be just a play calling thing. A coaching change might be needed. Doug Peterson was my number 1 pick for the coaching hot seat this year. Him and Nick Sirianni. So we'll see how that plays out. However, the Browns they got out with a win, and Her Jerry Jeudy looked sick in this game, and Watson was just fine, and the run game, which Jerome Ford was all right. So they squeaked out this one with a win, and I was wrong, and so was 75% of everybody else. Yes, Seahawks. Seahawks to the bowl. All right. Next up, I picked the Commanders to beat the Giants. The Giants are going to have the worst record in the league, I think. They might just beat out the Panthers for that department. And that's why I got to do a mock draft. I want to do a mock draft this week, so we'll get that figured out. But next up, so pick the Commanders. Jaden Daniels looked good. The run game looked fine, and the defense looked all right. They were playing the Giants. There's not much to be said about this game. I felt like it was just Commanders-Giants. It's one of the worst football teams in the league, so... Next up, Raiders-Ravens. Ravens choked this one. I heard there was bad officiating in this game from my Ravens friends. But if you're a fan of your team, you probably think you have bad officiating in all your games, right? Everybody has bad officiating. Raiders defense looks sick. And Devontae Adams had a masterclass. He looked like a top 5 wide receiver still this week, and he balled out versus the Ravens, and they were able to squeak out with a win. Nobody's talking about the Justin Tucker misses. Justin Tucker's not the kicker he once was. I don't know what was going on over there, guys. Ravens are 0-2. They haven't been 0-2 in a long time. Don't panic just yet. JT is washed. Yeah. I didn't watch this one. All I saw was Justin Tucker miss, and I was like, wow, is it over for Justin Tucker? Is that over, man? Does he need to pack the bags? Lamar's still awesome. I think they just need to figure out their play calling, get some chemistry, start cooking. Some bump in the roads are going to happen. You're going to have regression from year to year. I picked them to be the 1 seed. They might just be the 4th seed or the 3rd seed, but they're still going to make the playoffs. They're still going to be awesome. And they're I'm not going to say they're still my Super Bowl pick now, but it's the Ravens and it's Lamar Jackson, so I expect them to be in the conversation still. The Raiders are a feisty team. They have a good defense. They have a good head coach that I really like. I think Antonio Pierce is doing a great job over there. And Gardner Minshew is a pleasant surprise as well. He had under 50% completion percentage there. And now he's like leading the league in completion percentage. So I don't know exactly what flip-flopped from the preseason other than it's the preseason. So maybe he was just trying to do his thing. I don't know. But they squeak out this game and win. Next one. I picked the Cardinals to beat the Rams. You heard it here. Puka Nacua injury. The offensive line injuries. The defensive injuries. I picked the Cardinals. However, that wasn't the problem. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray just kicked ass. Kyler Murray probably played his best game ever. He was so efficient. He was on time. He was super accurate. He was running when he was supposed to. He looked great, and he was looking like the MVP candidate that we want Kyler Murray to be. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is looking like the best player in the NFL draft that we thought he was going to be. And anybody that thought he wasn't going to be that because of last week, you hit the panic button too early. All right, I don't care about the separation numbers for him. I didn't care about the top speed for him. He looked awesome in this week. I do have him on my fantasy team, so I might be a little bit biased, but I felt like the Cardinals looked sick, and their defense looked a lot better than they normally do. However, offensive line injuries, wide receiver injuries, Cooper Kupp got injured in this one, and then they started to really pull away, so the Cardinals got it in this one. Next up, I did pick the Bengals on stream. In my video, I picked the Bengals. And then I went back, not right after. I went back like the day before the game because I didn't really have a reason for the Bengals to win other than Joe Burrow. I was like, it's Joe Burrow, right? And then I realized that was a really bad reason. It's early season Joe Burrow. However, he did play good. Mike Gesicki looked awesome. I don't know if you guys were watching this one, but Mike Gesicki was balling out. Fantasy football waiver wire ad, by may I add, by chance. But Isaiah Pacheco also got injured in this one, so maybe Carson Steele. If you need a waiver wire ad, go add Carson Steele. Don't add Kareem Hunt. Do not add any other running back other than Carson Steele. maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't know if he's back yet from everything he's dealing with, but also maybe pick up Mike Gesicki. You might be thinking Hunter Henry, but I'm thinking Mike Gesicki. Anyway, the controversial PI. I don't think it was controversial at all. A lot of Bengals fans didn't think it was controversial at all. It just sucks that that's how it has to end. Especially after the overturn, like I don't know, like there was the penalty before that like helped the Bengals, and then they get a penalty that helps the Chiefs. It's just how the game is, and it sucks. Patrick Mahomes didn't play great in this game, and he still squeaked out with the win. So they're lucky to have this one. It's a good one to have for the AFC conference, and this might matter. This really might matter come December and January. So Bengals were right in there with it, and don't be scared that you're 0-2. Next one, I didn't watch this game. I tried my hardest to not watch this game. I'm not gonna lie. I avoided this game. The Broncos are terrible. They're a bottom five team in the entire league. Sean Payton might be on the hot seat after next year. I think they'll give him this whole year, but we'll see how it plays out next year. Steelers defense is top 3, man. The Steelers defense is crazy. The EPA numbers might not be there, but they balled out versus the Falcons, and they balled out again versus the Broncos. Justin Fields doesn't need to do anything. Honestly, I would like to see Justin Fields stay in over Russ, even though I think Russ would be the better game manager to keep this team afloat. This team is in contention for their division with the Bengals and the Ravens. I do normally like to count them out, but that defense is legit. The offensive line is now legit. Arthur Smith is doing a fine job, and the run game's doing a fine job. So they're looking just fine, right? And then the last two matchups, man. I picked the Texans to beat the Bears. A lot of people did, but I do want to talk about this one because I'm a Caleb Williams truther. I did say he's the QB1 of the draft, and I still believe it. I don't want to just come out and blame the offensive line, but the offensive line was terrible. The run game is terrible. I've been saying it for a while. A lot of people have been saying it for a while. We've been pounding the table. DeAndre Swift is not an efficient runner. He's not a good, running back that you want to have being your workhorse. You don't want to be giving him 15 plus carries a game, and that happened for Philly last week, right? Or last year, sorry. No Keenan Allen. Rome Odunze connection's not there. DJ Moore is mad. The offensive line is bad. The defense is pretty awesome, though, and so was the Texans in this one. So I wouldn't panic yet on Caleb Williams, guys. He is a rookie. He does have high expectations, but it's almost a little Bryce Youngish. But other than that, he just needs to stop hitting trick shots. That's kind of his thing. He's trying to hit a clip, I feel like. He's trying to do too much. He's trying to play hero ball. And I think it's the same thing with Shane Waldron, the play caller there, the offensive coordinator. I think he understands that he has this generational quarterback, or thinks he has this generational quarterback with all these weapons, and that you want to throw the ball down the field and throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns and absolutely, blow the socks off of every defense that you face. But that's not reality, right? You have a rookie quarterback, and they need to establish the run, whether it's through Khalil Herbert or Roschon Johnson, and get some play action and some short throws and screens and slants and, what other concepts you need to throw for Caleb Williams that he's comfortable with. But he's just trying too hard to hit these deep throws out of pocket and not step up into pressure. And you can't even, it's just so weird because the interior offensive line is also awful. So it's probably not something he's super used to. Obviously, the USC offensive line wasn't perfect, but that didn't really matter because it was college, and he just ran out of the pocket anyway and hit these sick throws down the sideline, and he's trying too much. I think he's super amped, and he's a little bit inaccurate. He's had those inaccuracy issues that he didn't have really at USC, and it's starting to be a problem here, so it's something we need to keep our eye on, but I wouldn't be out on Caleb just yet. and I wouldn't be out on this Bears team, but they might just be, a year away or a year away from being a year away. So give them another draft and another free agency, and they just need to really buffing up that interior offensive line and that the run game. Maybe this is an Ashton Jeanty team, but that would be so sick, man. Imagine Ashton Jeanty on the Bears. Or any of the running backs in this draft. Not any, but like Ollie Gordon. There's a lot of guys, but Ollie Gordon's like the most normal answer, I guess. Travion Henderson. Quinshon Judkins. Dude from Cal. Whatever running back. They need to draft a running back, though, and they need to draft offensive linemen. And their linebackers and their secondary is a little bit iffy. I think they need like maybe a third guy in that secondary, another guy in the linebacking quarter really buffing it out and figure that out. But onto the Texans, C.J. Stroud and Caleb Williams had the almost exact same attempts and completions, and C.J. almost had double his yards and had more touchdowns. Obviously, Caleb had no touchdowns in this one. So C.J. Stroud and the Texans are looking like they're as good as they were hyped up to be. There was a little bit of miscues in this one. Tank Dell didn't get the ball in this game, which I wish he did. I don't know if he's injured or what the snap share was looking like. And Joe Mixon did go down with an injury, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But the Texans look sick, and they look like they could be in the AFC Championship game. C.J. Stroud is awesome. He is not overrated, and he is just as good as everybody thinks he is. So he looks awesome in this. And now on to the next one. The Saquon Barkley drop, man, was brutal. I picked the Eagles to win. I felt like they had a better defense, the better quarterback, the better running back, the better offensive line. It's close, though. The Falcons do have an awesome offensive line. And then the better weapons, just in general, the better receivers, right? And the better play calling, even with Kellen Moore. And I still feel like all of those are true. However, Kirk Cousins in the fourth quarter was able to have a comeback drive after a Saquon Barkley drop, causing the Eagles to kick a field goal with a minute left on the clock. And Kirko, man, he's clutch in the fourth quarter. He has all these awesome game-winning drives. He won a primetime game, however, which is very impressive on the 36-year-old Achilles torn Kirk Cousins part. They squeezed this one out. I felt like the defense played great. Not great, but they played a fine game. They played a pretty good game. They played pretty good last week as well. I don't know where they're at in a lot of metrics right now, but Falcons defense is just fine. And Jalen Hurts had that blunder at the end, the interception in triple coverage that was underthrown to Devonta Smith. They'll be back. They're still winning their division. They're still going to be a top 3 seed in the NFC. And I wouldn't be too worried about this one. What was the stat line in this one? I didn't get to really see much of this game. I don't know any of the stats. Saquon was a little efficient. Bijan's super efficient. He needs to get the ball more still. 14 carries, man. I saw that sick Darnell Mooney touchdown, so that was cool. Is Jalen Hurts just not throwing the ball that much? What is his win probability? Wow. 97.6% chance to win and you blow it. That's pretty ridiculous. Can't open my water bottle. See the full box score. Look at me stat watching. Stop giving Tyler Algier the ball, dude. Ray McLeod? Bro. Like, Bijan's not getting involved in the pass game enough. And he's not getting involved in the run game enough. I do like that Drake London was more of a focus in this one, and that's what I said in my preview, that Drake London needs to be more of a focus. But it needs to be more of a focus in the fact that Kyle Pitts and Bijan are also more of a focus. Only 4 targets for Kyle Pitts. Um, I would like to see it be more. Let's see. Oh, let's not do that. Let's do this. If I can find this. All right, should be good. Is there separation on this one? This is not an advanced stat at all. This is like fake advanced stats. I really want to find out what the Kyle Pitts separation numbers were. I don't know if it's a PFF, man. It's definitely not that. This is also not what I want, bro. Alright, whatever, man. I have it saved on my phone. I wanted to see the separation metrics for Kyle Pitts, but I feel like he needs to get the ball more, and the Falcons will see more offensive success. But they won. Saw there was a little meltdown with Nick Sirianni and the offensive line not getting the defensive line jump call, getting the neutral zone infraction call, and then also Saquon Barkley's drop, which was huge. So Eagles are fine. But this was my week 2 recap. This was my picks. We'll go over them again. Picked the Bills. They're just so sick on offense. Better quarterback, better defense. Next up, I picked the Cowboys in a close game because better quarterback, better wide receiver. I thought better coach. I thought better defense. However, the Saints have the better defense. They have the better weapons. They might have the better coach. And they blew out the Cowboys in this game because of their run defense and their run offense. Next up, I picked the Lions because I thought better running back, better offensive line, better coaching, better weapons, and better defense. Buccaneers played better defense, and their quarterback played better. And they won that one. Next up, picked the 49ers in a close game versus the Vikings because they have better weapons, better play caller, better coach, better defense. Did you know they have not won versus the Vikings in Minnesota since 1992? I think that's kind of ridiculous. Next up was Chargers-Panthers. This was a very easy pick. Only Panthers fans might have picked the Panthers in this one. Next up, I picked the Colts versus the Packers. They were not going to have Jordan Love, so it was pretty simple to me. I didn't expect an Anthony Richardson meltdown game this early on in the season, and it happened. So, a little unlucky there. Jets. Picked the Jets. They have the veteran quarterback. They have the better running back, better wide receivers, better defense, and they win by a touchdown here. So, next up was the Seahawks versus the Patriots. I picked them for having completely better offense and better play calling, and having a better defense. And it showed in this game. Patriots fought great and well in the first half, not so much the second half, and the Seahawks squeak out with an overtime win versus the Patriots. Next up was the Browns versus the Jaguars. I picked the Jags because Trevor Lawrence is sick, and he wasn't sick, so it's not his fault. It's never going to be his fault. So Browns win. They have the better defense. Next up, I picked the Commanders because the Giants are the Giants. And then after that was Ravens. Raiders. Picked the Ravens because I have them as my 1 seed, so I need to beat the Raiders, right? Next up, picked the Cardinals because of all the injuries on the Rams, and the offense on the Cardinals is underrated. I picked the Chiefs because they're the Chiefs. Picked the Steelers because the Broncos are the Broncos. It's kind of like the same thing with all of these, right? I picked the Texans because the Bears have the rookie quarterback. Very young team. They're just a year away, right? And then the Eagles, that's kind of where I like to push it, is the better play caller, quarterback, and weapons, and the better defense, right? The better team, right? Schematically. It didn't come down to a lot of these games, right? Sometimes you just need some breaks to go your way, and that's all it takes to get a win in the NFL. So thank you for tuning into this episode. I will be back probably tomorrow with my week 3 picks. So we'll do the week 3 picks and go from there. After the week 3 picks, I kind of want to do a mock draft, so we'll see. We'll see if I do the mock draft tomorrow or do the mock draft Friday. But if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm live over on Twitch right now, so pull up on the Twitch. It'll be down below in the description.